And we are live. Welcome everyone. Uh, I think some more people might join later, but I'm gonna go ahead and start now. So it's been another 2 weeks. As usual, we'll go over our team and share some progress, and then we'll move on to the open mic. So if you have any questions, please hold on for a few minutes, and you'll have a chance to ask them later. I don't have anything to talk about from my work personally, so I'm gonna go. Let's start with the team. Zoli, I see you're here. Do you wanna talk about your work? Okay, let's move on to Christo.
Hello. So I don't have much progress on my side. I had a little bit of vacation and did some work on the um, deep linking UI Flash API, let's say. This should be merged now. So I don't suppose somebody is going to want to use it, but maybe it's going to be useful one day for Jitsi Meet Electron. For example, or maybe if somebody has some custom app there. And I think that's all from my side.
Pavel, are you here?
Yes, so I worked on finishing PR integration with mobile torture tests. I'm almost there. We're planning to use Travis for building binaries and then use those binaries to start Appium tests for PRs. This is almost ready. Other than that, I was working on fixing crash in picture. So right now we have a fix which only catches the exception. Then we may not always go into the picture-in-picture mode in those cases where the app would crash. I'll be working on a proper fix this week. Other than that, I fixed some problems with the Android tests in Torture. And probably something else, but I don't remember. Other things.
Just want to add to this that it's the Appium work is pretty exciting, uh, specifically for this community, because we've had a number of cases where work on mobile has actually broke stuff. Sorry, work on web has actually broke stuff with mobile. It may or may not get caught, so there's a good chance it may actually reach users. Hopefully, this is going to help a lot in that direction. So it's actually quite exciting.
Yeah, it's huge for the mobile team or part of the community because now we're not gonna be like our velocity shouldn't stop because of like crashes caused by web, but also it's gonna capture our own or our own problems as well. So we're super excited about the testing, and I'm sure everyone is waiting for that. I want to add to what Paolo said. So yeah, we these 2 weeks we released a new version of the Jitsi Meet app for Android and iOS. And it contains notable features such as calendar support. Everyone was involved in the development. Zoli led it. And it's gonna read, once you give the permission, it's gonna read your calendar and show your meetings which have a URL that we recognize, and it's gonna show them in the app. So it's super easy to join those without clicking on calendar notifications and then links inside them, but it's also gonna show you while you're in a conference a notification for your next conference for people who do those things, and it's like gonna alert you and it's gonna be easy to tap on the notification and go into that subsequent meeting. So awesome work there. We did have a few crashes on Android related to the calendar, what we told Android versions, devices, and calendar format. So we did release a subsequent hotfix for the calendar, and in the weekend we release one more hotfix in order to catch this picture-in-picture exception that was crashing us. It's a intermediate step. We know it's not a final solution, but picture-in-picture is only supported on Android 8 anyway, so it's not like all our users get picture-in-picture. So yeah, some of them won't get it even on Android 8 for now, but we should be able to live with that, and we'll definitely fix that soon. So we did get a lot of other bug fixes as well into the release, and that's pretty much what I have to say. Bobby?
Zoli had some mic problems, and he'll fix them now. So Zoli, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, thanks. So what I wanted to add, because Hugo summed it up nicely, is that there is an additional change that is being reviewed and merged right now. Is that there was a refactor that web is using the Redux store to store settings now. That's in the pipeline, being reviewed, merged soon. And the next things that will come from me is a couple of refactors regarding calendar sync, and yeah, I think that's it.
And I forgot, we've got pinch to zoom for desktop streams on mobile. Again, Zoli, a big effort there. Of course, reviewers and everyone did their work in order to bring that into a release, but it's super awesome. Now we can zoom into someone's desktop stream and like see all the details and move around, because obviously a desktop stream is not gonna fit onto a mobile device screen sometimes, so we can pinch, zoom, move around. Awesome.
I can't hear you. Can you not hear me? So this finishes the mobile team. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Well, also got in like future plans, as Zoli said, and things that we're working on. We're currently working on a UI redesign. We're like moving buttons around, changing some of the toolbars. So he's working on that actively, and we're gonna bring it soonish. That's still in heavy development. We're gonna split the local participant from the remote participants, just like we have on web, where you can scroll through the remotes, but the local is gonna stay in its position, and that's what Zoli did as well. He's got a PR for that, still not merged. Yeah, and we have internally to work on adding directory search so that we can tap on the button, which is like plus person as the icon, and then that's gonna raise an event to the SDK consumers, and they can plug in their own search UI. In our case, the default is the sharing sheet, which allows you to copy the URL and like send it to all different apps depending on the operating system. But sometimes we want to have something else like directory search, so that's gonna come as well.
Thanks, Joel. So let's move on to George.
Yeah, so we have migrated our bandwidth estimation test environment into a dedicated instance, and we have been gathering numbers for that. So that fixes an issue we had some time ago with irregular data gathered from the bandwidth estimations tests. And also, I've been looking into some connectivity issues in the stream was broken occasionally, and the reason was that the JVB was leaking RTP packets, unrewritten RTP packets, and now we have a PR out there that fixes this, and it's going to be merged today, and yeah, so we have a fix for that, and that's all from me.
Okay, Brian?
Yeah, so the SIP gateway code for Jibri is merged. We did do testing there, basically works, and we don't have any known issues, but we haven't hammered that quite as hard yet as the file recording and streaming yet. And right now I'm working on being able to do recording and streaming dynamically at call join time in a meeting rather than only having one button enabled in config. The Java stuff is done there, and I think I'm maybe halfway through the web stuff on that, so I'm going to keep working on that.
Damien?
Not much on my side. The one thing is that currently PR testing is also testing Safari, and I'm be working on adding the stuff that Pavel already mentioned. First to add the Android tests, and then activating the macOS that the iOS builds that he had done. So that's it.
And I think we are only left with Aaron for the infrastructure team.
Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to point out for our new Jibri was we actually made a mistake with our versioning for a little while with the Debian packages, which we've now corrected in the public repository. The issue is basically you were going to end up pulling older versions of the Jibri because of the numbering scheme, even though the newest version should have actually been 1.2, and we should have just blown away all of those older demo revisions that were incorrectly numbered. So that's resolved now. If anybody has any issues trying to pull Jibri from the repo, I also have a PR open that explains how to do it into the Jibri README, so that should make it a little bit more user-friendly and easier to consume. Other than that, I've been working to productionize the Jibri a little more and working on the file recording stuff. I've got some feedback to Brian that will probably guide some of that work forward around file recording and gathering of participant information. So that's all that I can report from the platform side.
Thanks, Aaron. So one more note from me before we move on to the open mic. It's about GSOC. As we reported last time, we had 5 slots allocated to us, and in about 15 minutes, Google should announce the accepted students. So as of right now, we don't know what's going to happen, but check back on our mailing lists and on our website soon, because we'll have information pretty soon here. And we're very excited about this year's participation. With that, open mic.
So I had at least 3 people ping me privately during the past couple of weeks who promised they'll come over. I don't know if they haven't made it or not, but let's talk about one of the questions that was raised, which was around the performance testing. Someone was asking more about what is the perf that we were getting from what we were seeing. And Brian, you were the last one to do perf tests on our side. I think it was sometime last year. And I think what you came up with wasn't dramatically different from the results that we have published from 2014. Can you?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Can you maybe share what you remember out of that experimentation? What tests, what is important? What do you think might be common pitfalls? Or if you can think of anything.
Yeah, unfortunately, I lost the notes I had from that. And Boris or George, if your memory is better than mine, please correct me. But yeah, I think we did I think we were seeing, I mean, I'm pretty confident that it was north of 500 megabits moving through a box. I think it was not
What
too
box do
far
you
north.
remember?
This was probably extra large, C2 maybe, I think it was at the time.
And you remember seeing north of 500 megabits going through the machine as a maximum, or?
Yeah. That's where we were maxing. I want to say it might even have been 600 and some change or something. But I'm not 100% sure on that. And at that point, going higher than that is when we started seeing basically like the UDP buffer errors. So we weren't keeping up with draining the queues, I believe, was the issue at that point.
And
hello, I'm sorry to break in there. I'm Olof. I was the one that asked you these questions regarding performance.
Right, thanks for speaking up.
If it's okay, I can add just a follow-up question on that test, because I've been testing also with like a C4 X large machine in OS, and my problem there is that I can also reach 500 megabit or even higher, but the CPU is what's going to run out. And it happens, you can, if I set up a test where I actually stream only one stream into the conference, and I add, say, like 40, 50 users just listening, then I'm running out of CPU. I'm at 75, 80%.
By just listening, you mean that they're not sending video, just receiving?
Yes, they're just sending audio. And so it seems to be, it's like less related to the actual throughput of bandwidth. So this can happen even if I send like a small video stream in. It seems like the number of participants in the call is actually going to exhaust the CPU. So that's when you were running your tests, were you running with this setup where you set up like 33 participants, they're all sending video, and then that is forwarded to all the other participants? You get like a really high bandwidth, but you're not that many participants yet.
Yeah, I had done it in everyone was sending and receiving video, and I didn't do one big conference. I may have done some tests that were one big conference, but I don't remember the differences. Most of mine, I think, were conferences of 5 participants each.
And I think we were doing it that way because that was less favorable, actually. One conference was generally behaving better than multiple smaller ones.
Correct. That's in the 2013 tests, we did one big conference, and we found that was the bridge was behaving better with one big conference as opposed to many small ones. So that's why with those last tests, we divided them in smaller ones. You said only 40 to 50 receivers. I really wouldn't expect any CPU issues there for these numbers.
Yeah, me neither. But it was an 8-core machine.
Yeah, so I think that's something we should look into.
Yeah, that's an interesting test because it's simplified around one set of kind of operations in a way. So that would be a good repro scenario to try to look at to find some issues.
Is it possible? I don't know if that's a thing with AWS, but AES-NI is there by default, right? There's no way this could have been disabled or something.
What the SN?
The encryption instructions in the CPU.
No, I don't think so. That there's that option. They do have this enhanced networking, which I tried with both on and off, and it does save a little bit of CPU. You save maybe 8-10% of.
No, this is just the ability of OpenSSL to pass encryption directly to the CPU as opposed to doing it itself, basically.
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't think you can actually disable that. The other thing that you were mentioning in your email was the number of threads.
Oh yeah,
which is not a concern. Yes, we traditionally have a high number of threads, but that's also the case when things work right. So that's a red herring, basically.
Okay. So it reaches.
So yeah, it's. Sorry, what's that?
No, I just acknowledged.
Yeah. So yeah, it is weird then that you are. That's not what we saw, and now the question is that something that's specific to your environment somehow, or Aaron, have you noticed any higher CPU usages in our bridges as of late, or anything like that?
Not that I've noted.
Right. So we'd have to look into it.
Emil, I don't know the details, but I recall that Logmein was reporting something like that too. And I'm very, very disappointed that Gabor hasn't joined this call yet, like ever. But I think maybe we could get some more info from him too, somehow.
Yeah. Well, Boris and Brian, do you guys think you'd be able to try and see if we can repro at least see if we can repro the abysmal performance on a server of ours in the next couple of weeks so that we can report in the next call?
That would be great.
Yeah, I'd like to, and hopefully could if time permits.
Yeah, let's make some time for that, because to at least see if it really is a problem or if it's an environmental thing. All right. Well, Olive, thanks for joining.
Okay,
and
thanks.
for raising this.
Guys, can I interrupt?
Yeah, who's that?
Hi, it's Alex calling from Greece, actually. I sent a message to someone on your Facebook page. I'm not really sure who that was. And that person told me about this community call and thought I would join to ask a few questions, although I'm realizing that it's quite technical, and I've sort of had in my mind to describe a business case that we're interested in, because I'm working for a big IT company here in Greece. I don't know if this is the place to do so. I don't want to waste anybody's time.
I think I was the one who asked you to come over here, and but you actually had a question of a technical nature, I believe, or at least high-level technical nature. So,
well, it was one.
Why don't you go ahead and ask it, and then we'll, if it's not the right place, we'll let you know.
Well, it was actually one question that would possibly be leading to several more, but the question did have concerned the scalability of Jitsi. To be sincerely honest, I've only heard of Jitsi since last week, because I did some research online. I found this great, as it turns out, open source project, and since we are providing the Greek market with electronic devices, smartphones and tablets, we were thinking of offering video calls to our customers. And I was wondering about first of all, the scalability of the technology, of the platform, and also about the infrastructure. What would be actually needed to support our customers, which are in the hundred thousands, let's say.
Okay, well, that sounds that definitely doesn't sound like an inappropriate question, and it's something that we can answer fairly quickly. So there are multiple systems with hundreds of thousands of users and more, including Atlassians, but many others that use Jitsi and are dealing fine with it. Obviously, they don't run on a single server, so it's not only about the scalability of the Jitsi server itself. You have to build your infrastructure appropriately. What it comes down to with Jitsi is that it has built-in scalability that partially gets you there. You can run multiple video bridges behind our conference orchestrator, which we call GCOFO. This is basically the thing that manages sessions and puts them on different video bridges. And then we typically do installations where one machine hosts one GCOFO server, one Prosody server, and then those machines run multiple other machines that are bridges. Something like to add bridges and remove them on the fly. And then you can put another layer in front of the GCOFO instances. You use HA proxies and use those HA proxies to front multiple, what we call shards, a shard being one GCOFO instance plus multiple bridges. So you can have multiple of those shards behind a layer of HA proxies, which can get you very, very, very far. Basically, there's no practical limit. Well, actually, that's not true. There is a practical limit, but you really have to work hard to hit it. Now, in terms of scalability of individual calls, I don't know if that's something that you were asking about or not, but we currently consider that realistically, it's hard to use the system for calls with more than 50 people. And even 50, you have to turn on a few options, like make sure that not everyone's video is being forwarded and things like that. So 50 is already stretching it a bit.
I was talking about, sorry to interrupt, Emil, is it? Yeah?
Yes.
I was more referring to the scalability in terms of concurrent video calls.
Yeah, but I kind of got going on Octo, so
yeah.
So I'll finish that sentence.
Sure, sure.
So that work is currently in progress. We expect to be supporting hundreds of participants per call somewhere toward the end of the summer. But yes, that only last part pertains to number of participants per conference. Everything else that I said about the shards and how you front them with HA proxies, that directly answers your question. That was meant for specifically scalability in terms of number of concurrent calls.
Okay, great, thanks. What would be, perhaps it's a difficult question to answer, but what would be the best case, let's say, in developing, let's say, the infrastructure and managing the whole development of the software on the software side to finish the project? It's a difficult question. Actually,
what do you mean by finishing the project? It is finished I mean, it's being used in multiple production applications.
Mm-hmm.
And as in finished, as in no more development happens on it, then I guess 100 more years and we should be there.
Okay, I was looking for since we're only going to have one-on-one video calls to begin with, and we're talking about a few thousands, let's say, customers to begin with, because we were thinking of allowing the customers to have this service, let's say, providing this availability in the market, first of all in our higher end models, and then moving slowly towards the mid range and perhaps the lower range models. So we do have the opportunity to provide this service only in a subset of devices, let's say, just so we can make the infrastructure work to build it faster, and then we can worry about supporting more customers in the future. So if we wanted to solely work on the software, because if you I don't know if I mentioned this, Emil, where the added value of our devices is that we have the voice recognition technologies. So we do wish the Android application to integrate with our voice recognition technologies. Say, for example, that call someone, a customer could speak to the device, ask the device to call someone, and the device through Jitsi would call one of his contacts. So in that respect, and only having one-to-one video calls and using the smallest possible effort on the infrastructure. What would that mean?
Just a few thoughts. First of all, you cannot make calls through Jitsi. It is a rendezvous service. It's not really. It doesn't really have the notion of an actual user location. The right terminology is escaping me right now. You cannot make a call with it. Now we do have a few tools in Jitsi Meet that kind of make it easier for you to build a system around Jitsi that uses it for calling, but you would need to build that yourself. So I would first figure that part out. Secondly, I would not start with one-to-one support only because you don't even need Jitsi for one-to-ones. Now, Jitsi would natively optimize one-to-ones by offloading them off the bridges and connecting people directly if that's possible, using turn servers if that's necessary, and only switching automatically to a bridge when a third party joins. I would very, very strongly advise you to not split out one-to-one and multi-party calling because it would probably be more work for you to do the split than anything else. A side question which you didn't ask, but I'd like to give you is also make sure that you use. I don't know if you currently have plans on whether you'll be using the bridge alone or you'll be using the entire Jitsi Meet suite. Would strongly encourage you to use the entire suite through the iframe API that we have. So whatever embedding you're doing, you can embed the Android application entirely so that you use the full suite of infrastructure. And that puts you in the same use case that we are at Atlassian. So your problems are our problems in that case. If you're not in that case, then your problems are your problems. Okay, you're on your own, most likely. So your final question was about basically how you, a few thousand users, put it that way, is not a lot of users. That would probably mean at best a couple of tens of simultaneous calls. And if you're expecting one-to-one, which is usually what services mainly do, probably more than 60% of your calls would be one-to-one anyway, regardless of how you limit that service. Then, resource-wise, even a single server would support that. Now, you might want to start with multiple servers just to make sure that you would have the high availability. If one goes down, someone would take over. But it would be really easy to get that off the ground, and that's probably the right way to do it, so that you can slowly build your infrastructure. And that's probably where most of your work will be, on the DevOps side and building the deployment and all of that. Hopefully, that's helpful.
I'll also chime in. If you're thinking about running a communication system, it's always about monitoring so you know what's wrong before your customers do. So that usually takes people resources as well as computer resources, and I would highly recommend you study that as you're considering running a service so that you gain the trust of your customers.
Thanks for the input. Thank you very much.
So Alex, you're welcome to join our call in the future and ask more questions as you guys are building the service. The more targeted, the better, and hopefully we'd be able to assist you as you grow.
I will. Thanks, Emil. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else?
Hey, Emil, it's Chad. Actually, I have a quick question.
Hey, Chad.
I have a client that wants to run Jitsi Meet just as a mobile web app, not using the native clients. It looks like the Meet application by default, it detects if it's a mobile browser and then forces you to go and download, or it basically doesn't let you use Meet, and you have an option to include download links or not for the native app. Is there a way to actually allow it to run a quick way?
Lupo, would you like to comment on that?
Run as a web app, a mobile web app.
There is not one switch to actually say disable that, but that's the lesser problem. So basically, you need a browser on the mobile side, which provides the capabilities we need, mostly WebRTC. So Google Chrome on Android will probably do that. But a Safari on iOS is not going to do that at the moment.
I just say that they only care about audio only. So I think Safari would work.
Okay. So there's no switch to disable it, but it's not difficult to do it. So.
All right.
Yeah. If you guys send a note to the list or to us, we should be able to point you to the place in the code where that's happening. But there's a bigger question to consider here, which is the fact that the reason we turned that off is because off the box, it really doesn't look that great in a browser on a mobile. It's not a responsive design, and it's kind of challenging to use.
Yeah,
we have
this is just a quick kind of proof of concept prototype. It's not a longer term. It would definitely need to look a lot different.
Well, then, would you mind sending a note to the list, and Lugo would point you to the place in the code where you guys can turn off the disablement?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Sure.
All right, thanks.
Meanwhile, I got some more info from Gabor about the CPU issues, but as far as I see, the community member who dropped it up has left, so I guess there's no point to talk about it anymore here.
Yeah, let's look at that in the next couple of weeks, and we'll report what we find, and Zolly would talk it through and see. Yeah, maybe we do a quick update post on Jitsi work too.
Cool.
With the findings, if it makes sense. All right. Well, if there's no one else, then Boris, I'll let you close. Boris?
I think he has connectivity issues, so...
Okay, well, Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.